You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the latest episode of Star Trek Prodigy called Crossroads. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today on the panel are Father Cory Sticha. Hey, Father Cory.
How's it going?
And Jimmy Akin. Hey, Jimmy.
Howdy, Dom.
Folks, be sure to share the podcast with your friends. Help us grow this community and reach more listeners. The number one way we get a new audience member is by you recommending and sharing. So we really do appreciate that. And there's another show on the StarQuest Network I'm sure you will enjoy called Let's Science. You can find that wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/science. So, Jimmy, we have this new episode of Star Trek Prodigy. Could you give us a recap of what happens?
Last time, the kids decided to find a way back to Starfleet without the Protostar so that the Federation will be safe. This time, they put the plan into action. They go to an ice planet with a transportation hub and bury the Protostar in the snow. They then go to the transportation hub, a wretched hive of scum and villainy, where they meet the Han Solo wannabe Thadium Okona from the terrible Next Generation episode, The Outrageous Okona. They also meet biological Janeway and her crew, who have come in search of Barnus Vex, the Denobulan, who was on the communications relay station when it got destroyed. Janeway learns that the Protostar is being crewed by kids, but the kids learn that Gwen's father, the Diviner, is on Janeway's ship, and that Janeway believes that they took Chakotay prisoner or killed him, and that they deliberately destroyed the communication station. So they run, and we get a snowspeeder chase across the surface of the planet Hoth back to the Protostar. And they unwittingly take Okona along with them. Once back at the Protostar, they launch and are preparing to use its jump drive to escape biological Janeway, but Murph hatches from his chrysalis, and in his new humanoid form, he accidentally launches a torpedo that hits Janeway's ship. She returns fire and damages the Protostar's third nacelle, crippling them. Upon falling out of warp, Okona suggests that they remodulate their shields so the Romulans can't detect them and head into the neutral zone. They do so, and Janeway is prepared to risk war and follow them in. And in our final shot, Romulans intercept Janeway and warn her that she's dangerously close to entering the neutral zone. The end.
So, interestingly, that one thing that characterizes this show is that they don't drag things out.
No.
If they say that something's going to happen at the end of one episode, then the next episode, it's going to happen. What we have here is the encounter with Janeway we've been anticipating, which I think happened sooner than I thought it would, frankly. I mean, what did you guys think? Is this a surprise?
I don't think so. I think this was, I figured it was going to be later in the season, but it's not a surprise it happened now, because we knew that Janeway was chasing after him and that she was following their trail. So figured it would be a matter of time before she would catch up. How it happened, it was also not a surprise that, they do run into her, and of course she gets the wrong impression, and so they go run and hide, instead of explaining everything. They, there's miscommunication and the usual keeping secrets from each other. That didn't surprise me.
Yeah. How about you, Jimmy? Was it a little bit of surprise, or
No,
kind of fits within?
I could predict, I didn't predict that it's going to be on an ice planet, but I predicted that we would be meeting Janeway soon, and there would be a misunderstanding, and all that's fairly straightforward. It could have happened within an episode or two. So, but I knew it was coming soon. And,
okay.
It was an interesting episode. I was interested that they had each of the members of the Protostar kids meet a different member of Janeway's crew, which was kind of interesting. So, like, Jankum Pog meets his fellow Tellarite, Dr. Noam, and he's doing his little comical Tellarite royalty thing, and Noam kind of bursts his bubble by revealing that the name Pog is reserved for runts.
Yeah.
And
which may explain why Jankum Pog was out there all alone to be captured by the Diviner.
Maybe also his shortness relative to the other characters is not just artistic license. He really is much shorter
Right.
than other people, including the Tellarites we've seen before. Gwyn then meets Essentia, Tahani. Dal meets Janeway himself. And so we get interaction with each of them. Of course, the misunderstanding, I'm kind of cutting them slack because they're kids, but dudes, explain.
Right.
But they don't, and so we have, which I guess for kids thing is okay.
It was a little frustrating that Pog was literally just about to tell Dr. Doom about the Protostar when he gets derailed by the, wait a minute, like you just insulted me. Like, no, just tell him. Yeah, it was a little funny.
Well, and that's the same thing. Dal was about to tell Janeway, and of course she's, you want to join Starfleet? Yeah, but there's a problem, and was about to tell him then when everybody else shows up and.
Right. Yeah, that whole, and then the running and then the misunderstanding. So, but we start with the Diviner again on the Dauntless. That's Janeway's ship here, and he doesn't have his memory, but it's coming back like this in little bits here and there, and it is interesting to see this turnabout where the assumptions that are being made by Janeway and her crew that the Divine, like we've mentioned before, that he's a victim, that they just assume that he is the good guy, or they give him the benefit of the doubt anyway, that he's the victim of the bad guys, and these must be the bad guys. So I like that they're doing that. It is at least somewhat of a little bit of a complex thing for a kids show. So that's pretty good. So they stash the ship under the snow, which I think is kind of funny, that this whole sequence of we're going to hide it here. And, and the Holo Janeway is, it may be many years before I see you again, but it'll be just like a second for me. And then when they get back, like within a half hour, she's like, how long has it been?
Yeah. I'm like, that was a little unrealistic for me. It's like, dude, you're a hologram. Just check the system clock.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. But what they're trying to do ostensibly is hitch a ride to Starfleet with someone else. Jimmy, I literally wrote the same thing you did about the depot is a wretched hive of scum and villainy. Because there is that line is kind of dropped there. Something similar to that, not exactly that, but it is kind of dropped there. So I'm sure it's an homage. And we have,
and especially given the presence of Okona, because he is. Yeah. If you know the original episode from Next Gen, he just wants to be Han Solo so hard, but he is just not. Yeah, it is a terrible, terrible episode. The best dissection I've ever seen of it was on a website called the Agony Booth, where where the guy would dissect in exquisite detail all just how bad different pieces of visual media are, and he did a whole series on dissecting the Outrageous Okona, which incidentally has a characteristic of bad writing, which the author of the Agony Booth refers to. I think it's a very useful term. He refers to it as informed attributes. So if they have to tell you about someone instead of showing you, it is what the person's characteristics are. It is bad. It is poor writing. If you have to say, "Oh, this guy, he's so blank," and it's right there in the title, "The Outrageous Okona." So you aren't gonna, instead of showing us that he's outrageous, you have to tell us he's outrageous, and he's actually not that outrageous. And he certainly isn't here. Of course he's a lot older, but he's certainly better here than he was in the original episode, but he does almost nothing.
Yeah.
Well, and Billy Campbell had revealed that he was going to be on as this character, and that part of this is to redeem the character. To make him actually, older, wiser, and not quite the comic relief he was on TNG.
Well, and he also was in Lower Decks too, right? I mean, he was
an animated version of him that didn't have any lines was in Lower Decks as a
right.
DJ at a Starfleet party.
That's right. Yep. That's right. But we have this. He's one of the few guest characters from TNG who showed up on both Lower Decks and on Prodigy. So I mean, it's so far kind of interesting. But he's also missing an eye. By the way, someone apparently took his eye because of how bad he was.
He had both eyes in the original Next Gen episode.
Yeah. He was maybe perhaps too outrageous at some point. We also have this is where Barnes Frex showed up. Now, he was the Starfleet officer on board the communications array that got destroyed and picked up and brought apparently to here by his rescuers, where they were going to rendezvous with Janeway. And so that's where he is. They find him there, and he's the one who kind of points a finger at Dal and says, "That's them." So kind of interesting there.
It's also interesting. So Janeway is kind of down on Barnes Frex after the reveal, because it's like, you didn't tell me they were kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a kind of a big reveal there. And I think it changes Janeway's attitude a little bit, although she's still getting ready to blast them with photon torpedoes by the end of it.
Not to kill them, but to
disable
them from escaping.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting, that, like, as you mentioned, each of these characters runs into a counterpart on Janeway's crew that's significant. And with Gwyn, she runs into Ensign Asencia, who is become close to the Diviner, and who has been told by the Diviner about his daughter Gwyn. And so when Gwendala, right? And so when she realizes this is her, she's like, "Oh, your father wants to see you," and doesn't realize that's a horrific thing.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah. So and runs away.
You do have parallels in who meets who. You've got the Tellarite meets the Tellarite, the girl meets the girl, and the captain meets the captain.
Yes, exactly. The girl who's close to the Diviner. Yeah.
And you got Rock, who calls them all out. You've met all these people and you didn't tell them about the weapon on the Protostar.
Right. I mean, that's the thing that's frustrating. Just tell them about the virus. And then once they get on the Protostar, they can't, open hailing frequencies, because that is what triggers it.
Janeway could have done a little bit more on her part. I mean, not even not knowing that the kids can't open hailing frequencies. Janeway could have been broadcasting, "Hey kids, let's talk."
Yeah.
And what they should have done, and what would have been a real world thing to do, is use a signal light.
Yep.
If you can't establish radio communication, switch over to using a signal light. Just in their context, it would probably be a laser, but but whether it's a laser or a regular light, start talking by signal light that you're in control of.
Or, hop in a shuttle and fly over and go aboard, or, land on a planet's surface and talk, or something. But yes.
Right.
In the snow chase, which was very Star Warsy.
Oh, yes.
Did the kids kill one of the security guys when they caused his vehicle to crash and explode?
I don't think so.
Because
that's one of those, they don't show anything, but all you see is it go, swerve off into a rock, or you're behind a
and there's kind of an explosion. There's an explosion, but there were only 3 guys chasing them, and then at the end there were still 3 vehicles. So I think maybe they kind of pulled back on that, realizing, oh, maybe we shouldn't have them, killing somebody who's innocent. This is just police, essentially.
Yeah. And there's Xindi.
Yeah,
from Enterprise. These were reptilian Xindi.
Oh, I didn't recognize them in the animated form, but yeah, I guess they are. I guess we've fixed things with the Xindi by this point in the timeline. So they get back to the Protostar and take off. I didn't realize how small the Protostar is, because it is pretty small compared to the Dauntless, which I'm going to guess is not bigger than, say, the Enterprise D. It's probably comparable at most.
The Dauntless is definitely bigger than Voyager. Let's put it that way.
Yes. I'm guessing, though, that the Protostar, I mean, given that there's a small crew of kids running it, it's got to be pretty small, I guess. But in any case.
I think of it as maybe, 3 or 4 times the size of a runabout.
Oh yeah, that would be pretty small then. Yeah, maybe a little bigger because it has like multiple decks and stuff. But yeah, it's not much bigger. It's probably small. Maybe size of Defiant. That might be another way to look at it.
Smaller.
Yeah. So in any case, the ships is my thing. But in any case, they're being chased through warp space. Is it warp space or is it like the
slipstream? I think
slipstream. Yeah. Because that's a new thing in Trek is they've sort of replacing warp drive with slipstream because at one point warp drive was said to be damaging the fabric of space and that sort of thing. So
There's a line about how they're running away from a quantum slipstream Dauntless class ship.
Right.
So it's clear that they're also running at that slipstream.
Right.
I like that Okuna's line is this warp 4? And Spock just laughs. 9.97,
And then so then the Protostar drive is disabled just as they're about to jump, because that's a drive that even the Dauntless doesn't have. And so they're knocked out of warp. But before that though, we have the big reveal of Murph, which is he's been in this cocoon and comes out with arms and legs and more cuteness to spare.
Well, maybe. I mean, he's definitely got a humanoid body form now. He's still, the kind of purple goo, and he's got a little ball of purple goo floating above his head somehow.
Yeah.
So he's apparently got telekinetic abilities. But I don't know that I like it better than the slug form.
No, it's kind of Teletubby-ish to me. It's kind of
I was hoping that when he would come out of the cocoon that he'd actually be talking. And of course, it is not established that he doesn't yet because we only see him for 5 minutes at the end of the episode.
Right.
And he's barely in that.
Yep.
It seems weird to be paying D. Bradley Baker to be the voice actor for ew, ew, making cooing noises.
He was James T. in the previous episode. So
no, I know, but he's part of the cast. I mean, they got to be paying him money to be a cast member.
That's why I've said for a long time I think Murph is going to end up talking. There's going to be more to Murph than he's just a slug.
On the other hand, Marvel is paying Vin Diesel to say "I am Groot" over and over again. So who knows?
That's different.
So this whole thing of hiding in the neutral zone by rotating your shield frequencies or whatever the technobabble is, if that were useful or possible, wouldn't Starfleet always do that?
Yeah. Well, except for there being ethical and stuff. But yeah, remodulate the shields is the technobabble in question. And so presumably anyone who wants can just wander into the neutral zone by remodulating their shields.
Right. As long as you're outrageous. That's all I'm saying is you have to be outrageous to do it.
Well, it's kind of the typical shield technology thing of, as long as you know the exact frequency of the shield, a photon torpedo can go right through it and destroy the engineering section of, a Galaxy class starship, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's one of the writing failures that you often see in Star Trek is when writers need a technological reason to be able to do something. They'll either break the transporters or they'll break the shields, in some weird way. They won't do their design thing because we found a way through it or around it or that sort of thing. And it's a bit of a crutch, I think, that the writers will rely on a little too often. And that's where we end things. I mean, this has been another mostly action episode, so there's not a lot more to talk about unless you want to talk about the animation of snow speeders. But I really don't.
One thing I kind of got a kick out of, though, if you really think about it, is they chose the reptilian Xindi, the cold-blooded Xindi on an ice planet.
That's true.
Should have chosen the mammalian Xindi.
Exactly.
Yep, that's true. That's true. Any other notes, Father Cory?
Nope.
Jimmy?
Nope.
Okay, that was a quick one. I mean, it's kind of disappointing because it's an important episode. They've connected with Janeway here, but there's just not a lot to talk about. And
we'll see what happens next week.
That's right. We'll see. So while we sign off, we want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of Star Trek, including Earl P., the G family, David A., Kevin B., and Jeff K. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Trek in all the shows at StarQuest, and you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So that's it from us. We'd love to know what you think of this Prodigy episode, Crossroads. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek, or our Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to trek@sqpn.com, or visit our Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord. All kinds of ways to get in touch with us. You can now watch The Secrets of Star Trek in full video on your YouTube channel, our YouTube channel, not your YouTube channel, our YouTube channel at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the next episode of Prodigy called Masquerade. And until then, Father Cory Sticha, thank you for joining me and sharing The Secrets of Star Trek.
Thank you, Dom.
Jimmy Akin, thank you as well.
Thank you, and live logs and proper.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, fear of failure has killed more dreams than any other cause. I don't know that that's true.